Hello, welcome to this update. Let's see the severe weather today for the U.S. and Canada. So there's an enhanced risk in parts of Minnesota, South Dakota, northern Nebraska, and even northwestern Iowa and western Wisconsin. And there's a slight risk during the northeast in parts of Massachusetts and Connecticut. And the slight risk in the plains surrounding the enhanced risk in parts of Wyoming, Nebraska, northeastern Colorado, North and South Dakota, the upper peninsula of Michigan, even parts of western Michigan, Wisconsin, and Iowa. So be aware, and a margin around it from like Kansas to Michigan, and a margin in the mid-Atlantic and northeast. So be aware there. A regional severe weather outbreak possible in parts of the enhanced risk in Minnesota and South Dakota. So be aware there. There I have some discussions talking about some storms in Wyoming there and some areas, and another one there in parts of the northeast for this afternoon. But they'll have more later, especially as the storms in the enhanced risk come to fruition. So let's see here what they have. So this is the tornado threat. It's 5% in South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota, so be careful there. 5% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of a point, so be aware, there might be a tornado or two or even more. And the 2% tornado threat in western Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota, northwestern Iowa, northern Nebraska, and South Dakota. So be careful there. Wind threat is hatched, 30% for potential hurricane force winds there, and 30% in the enhanced risk there, and 15% in the slight from Wyoming to Michigan, and 5%, also 15% in the northeast for damaging winds, and 5% there. So please be careful there. In the 30%, those storms might have some really damaging winds. And hail, let's see. Hail is almost the same. There's a 30% in Minnesota and South Dakota, and hatched for 10% probability of 2-inch plus hail. So might be some damaging hail there too with those storms. Be careful. 15% from Wyoming to Wisconsin, 5% from Wyoming to Michigan. So be aware there. Be careful. And there's the 15% there in the northeast for hail too, and 5%. So be aware there as well. So please be careful there. Have some ways to receive warnings and everything. Let's see. Severe thunderstorm gusts, very large to very large hail, and a few tornadoes are possible today and tonight across parts of South Dakota, extreme northern Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. So please be careful there. Let's see. So there's this site here. I'll put a link to the description. It shows all the severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings, and tornado warnings. So if you don't have a reliable radio or anything, please have some ways to receive warnings, like this site here and some other sites. So be careful. And let's see. The HER shows some storms occurring in Wyoming there, in South Dakota, and then those storms from Wyoming grow bigger there, going to South Dakota, southeastern Montana. Then it keeps going, and some other storms fire around 0Z Tuesday, like late this afternoon in Minnesota there to this evening, and going to Wisconsin. But it really shows those storms like from Nebraska and South Dakota arriving like really later in the night in parts of Minnesota and southeastern South Dakota, like 8Z Tuesday. It's almost morning, I think. 8Z Tuesday. So it's showing like really late. But let's see here. It shows some storms before too there in Minnesota. But let's see the HER like a few runs ago to see what it showed. It showed like the storms there like Monday, and then they came like mainly through the evening and through the night there. like they went in the afternoon there through South Dakota, and like later in the evening, in the night, through Minnesota and Iowa there. But it shows those other storms firing ahead of it in Minnesota, into Wisconsin. So please be careful, Minnesota and Wisconsin there. Those ones might be really strong, and in South Dakota too. Those storms really strong. Let's see if some more runs ago. Let's see. It showed like a similar thing, like by 4Z Tuesday, like late this evening. It shows like the storms in South Dakota and the other line in Minnesota there. So please be careful and stay safe there. Those storms will be really serious. Let's see the significant tornado parameter. It shows here like higher around South Dakota, Minnesota, northern Nebraska. So, but it doesn't show anything crazy, but it shows like high around South Dakota there, especially like later in the evening. Let's see, and it shows you really cranking up by like this evening in northern Nebraska there, the significant tornado parameter. But according to the forecast, most of the storms will be in South Dakota and Minnesota. But it also shows some values there in South Dakota and Minnesota, so be aware. And later shows more into Iowa, southern Minnesota there, more significant tornado parameters. So stay safe there. Let's see. So there's the updraft helicity, the probability of rotating updrafts. This indicates like severe storms with large hail and strong winds and tornado. So it shows some higher values in northern Nebraska. There are some really higher values in Minnesota, into Wisconsin. There some higher values for severe storms in other parts of South Dakota, and then continuing later into eastern South Dakota and Minnesota. So please be careful there. Let's see what else. This is the supercell composite. It shows more in South Dakota, northern Nebraska, Minnesota. So be careful in all of those areas. And the mixed, let's see. The cape, it shows like surface base. No, wait, let's see. Most unstable cape, it shows there in some areas of South Dakota and Iowa, shows 4,000, close to 5,000 joules per kilogram in parts of southern South Dakota there. This is the most unstable cape, shows, let's see, the surface base cape. Let's see, shows a similar thing, a lot in South Dakota and Iowa, especially Minnesota there, southern Minnesota and Wisconsin, a lot of cape. And the most important type, the mixed layer cape, shows a lot in southern South Dakota and northern Iowa there. So there's a lot of energy for those storms. Please be careful there. Let's see what else. So some other models here. I trust more the her than the NAM, but the NAM shows the storms there too, like a similar timing to what the her had. So let's see. And there's this new run, the 15C. It's not loaded yet, but by the end of the run, it shows the storms in South Dakota there, and the other ones firing in Minnesota. So please be careful, like central Minnesota into western Wisconsin, and basically all of South Dakota and southern northern Nebraska there. So please be careful and stay safe there. Let's see. This is the map for today. Shows the severe weather, flash flooding, severe weather there, and thunderstorms and mixed precipitation. Tomorrow still some mixed precipitation in the northwest and rain. And day 3, more severe storms and precipitation and some rain. And then let's see. The precipitation today shows more in the Midwest from the storms, of course, more in Florida, Texas, and some other areas of the Northwest. Day 2, Tuesday shows more in the South, more throughout the Great Lakes, Canada, and the Midwest. Day 3 shows more in the Southwest, the North, and the Northeast. Day 4 shows more in the East, on the Southeast, and some central areas. Day 5 shows more rain in the Northeast, parts of Canada, in the South there, in Florida. Day 6, more in Florida, Texas, New Mexico, across Virginia, North Carolina, all the areas of the East Coast. Day 7, next Monday, shows more across to the South and the Southwest and the Southeast there, so be aware. Day 1 through 7 shows in the Northwest, a lot in the North there from the storms, and especially Texas, showing a lot there. A surge of moisture in Florida too. Bahamas shows a lot in New Mexico, central U.S. and other areas in the east there too. So be aware. Excessive rainfall are marginal today in western part of Florida. Be aware there. Marginal in parts of southeastern southern Texas. Marginal in New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado. And a slight where those storms will be South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and Iowa. So be careful there, with heavy rain, and a marginal from Montana to Michigan, and a marginal in the Northeast. So be aware. For Tuesday, tomorrow, a marginal in the Southwest and the Midwest. For Wednesday, a marginal in the Southwest, kind of Ohio Valley, Northeast, Pennsylvania, those areas, and the North again. Next Thursday shows another marginal risk in the North and on the East Coast there. Next Friday, another near the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and another in the Southwest there. So be aware. Let's see. This doesn't show anything here. Okay. And let's see. This mainly, they have some discussions there for the rainfall near the Texas coast, and the heat wave is still very present there. Some extreme and major heat risk across the Midwest and those areas there. Moderate heat risk in the South. Tuesday, more extreme heat risk in the Midwest. Be careful there of the heat and major heat risk through the Ohio Valley and other areas. Wednesday, more major heat risk across the East and the Central Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, and other areas there. Some extreme in Illinois still. Moderate on the south, on the west. Thursday, more extreme heat risk parts of Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, and major on the east and moderate on the southwest. Friday, more moderate heat risk across the west and minor heat risk, and still some major heat risk across the mid-south and some areas there. Saturday, more moderate heat risk on the west and on the south. Sunday, the same thing. So be aware there. The high for today shows in the hundreds in Kansas, 103, 100 in Nebraska, some 90s, 100s in Texas, the Southwest up to 108, even more, so 90s in California, 90s on the Southeast, kind of the East, lots of 90s throughout the central areas, and Mid-South. For tomorrow shows more 90s and some 100s in the Mid-South, in parts of the central US, especially on the Southwest, 100s there, 90s, and on the Southeast. And the minimum temperatures tomorrow shows colder in the West, some 40s and 50s in the morning, and some 70s, high 70s there. So very hot at night as well. So, and day 3 maximum shows, let's see, they don't show anything here for day 3, but day 4, so we'll check day 3 tomorrow when it's available. But for Thursday, day 4, they show still more than 100 in West Virginia, Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, 90s there, 100s on California, the Southwest, 90s in Oregon, more 90s in the Southeast, Day 5, they show more 100, more 90s there in the south, southeast, 100 to the southwest, some 80s in the high plains. Let's see. Day 6 max shows more 90s on the west, 100 on the southwest, 90s on the southeast. Day 7 max for Sunday shows more 90s on the southeast, more 100 on the southwest, some 90s up north. And yeah, stay safe. And the 24-hour max wind gusts shows wind there in Wisconsin, no, in Wyoming there, and in parts of Colorado, some gusty winds in Washington, Oregon, some gusty winds there, and this is just the winds by themselves, not considering the severe weather. If the winds from those storms showed up here, they will be like 70 to 80 miles per hour in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota. So please be careful with those storms. Might have some really damaging winds. So let's see the hazards. Of course, they will have some severe thunderstorm watches and even tornado watches later, but for now they have the heat warnings there in the Midwest, heat advisories, excessive heat watches. Let's see some air quality advisories, wind advisories in Washington, flood watches in Wisconsin, in Wyoming and Montana and New Mexico. Let's see heat advisories in southern Florida, the flood watches kind of Florida and Georgia there. The tropical storm warnings around Hawaii and the small craft warnings. So be aware there. And even let's see, what are these gray areas here? Let's see, hot week ahead. So they have some air quality alerts there because of the smoke. So yeah, stay safe. Let's see, but this gray is a little bit darker. Yes, it's an air quality alert as well. Some wind advisories. So stay safe there. Let's see if there's any other model here for the storms. So wait, air temperature, wait, here, let's see precipitation here. So let's see, I'll show you in a second another thing there, but for now let's see the thunderstorm risk in Canada, and then in the end of the video I'll show you something else in the US there. So let's see, in the prairies it shows too low risk of thunderstorms, so nothing crazy there today. British Columbia choose kind of quiet. Northwestern Territories, they show some storms with wind and some rain there. In Ontario, it's the big thing. There's like some severe possible, some moderate to strong storms in central Ontario, some minor storms in southern Ontario, but be aware there. Let's see some very gusty winds and hail and heavy rain. And let's see tomorrow, kind of the same thing. But let's see in Quebec, some minor storms in western Quebec and minor storms in eastern Quebec and southern Quebec there. But I'll show you another map in a second. They have something else. So they have some let's see, some minor storms in Atlantic Canada, in parts of New Brunswick and Labrador. So be aware there. And the other forecast for Monday today shows some severe storms possible through western Quebec and eastern Ontario. So be aware there. Some very heavy rain and strong wind gusts and even hail, and some general risk of storms throughout parts of Ontario and Quebec, and general risk of storms through Quebec and New Brunswick, even Nova Scotia. For tomorrow, this is Monday. For Tuesday, tomorrow, there's a big area of severe possible through central southern Quebec, no, Ontario, like southern Ontario, southwestern Ontario, and southwestern Quebec there, and general risk of storms all the way from Ontario to New Brunswick. So be careful tomorrow. Large hail, strong winds, and heavy rainfall. So it might be worse tomorrow. So let's see here. What else? So the current hazards, this might change later. They might have some watches and stuff later for the storms, but in Ontario they have some heat warnings there because of the high temperatures and high humidity values. And in Saskatchewan, more air quality advisories. More Northwestern Territories Air Quality Advisory, storm surge warnings in the north there. British Columbia, some special weather statements for heavy rainfalls expected there, so be aware there. I'll show you the forecast in a minute. In Nunavut, a bunch of wind warnings, like I showed you yesterday, 100 to 110 km/h possible because of the low pressure system passing through there. Northwestern Quebec with wind warnings as well, especially on Tuesday, more than 90 km/h, even 100 km/h gusts. And in Labrador, some heat warnings to some close to 30-degree temperatures and 16 to 18-degree low temperatures. So stay safe there. This is British Columbia, and all that rain there, some heavy rain because of that system. In the mountains, snow there. In Yukon, British Columbia, the snow there, and even into Alberta and the other parts of British Columbia, more snow in those mountains is forecast. And then as this system continues, shows more rain there today, might be a storm or two tomorrow, British Columbia and Alberta. Then it continues, might have some more storms later through Thursday and Friday, and a small system comes later, and another bigger system with snow and rain into Alaska and Yukon there. So yeah, and even another bigger system later by Tuesday, September 3rd, bring more rain there, and even a bigger one later by like September 5th. So we'll keep monitoring that. Let's see what else. Let's see. So Central Canada, let's see, it shows the system in Hudson Bay there, bringing all those severe wind gusts to Nunavut, and the storms in Quebec and Ontario, especially those bigger, strong, severe storms in Ontario there today and Western Quebec. And tomorrow, Tuesday, continues more in Southern Ontario, but Wednesday, that other system comes, Wednesday to Thursday, more storms there through Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. Through Friday, it continues east there. Might have some other systems later by next week. So let's see. For Eastern Canada, it shows the storms in Ontario and Quebec today, some might be severe. The system in the U.S. tomorrow, lots of storms in south central Ontario, especially southern Ontario and Quebec tomorrow. A lot of storms there, be careful. And then through Wednesday, still a storm or two in southern Ontario. Let's see, then this system comes by next Friday and Thursday into Ontario, more storms there into Quebec. Later by Friday and Saturday, that big system crosses there, even the northeastern U.S. and Atlantic Canada, and some other systems later next week. So stay safe there. The storms and everything. Let's see. What else? So stay safe there, and the temperatures still show hot today there, more than 30, close to 30, 29, 28 degrees in Western Quebec and Ontario, so be aware there. The heat kind of continues, but then that cold air comes in later. And then let's see, yeah, and that is mainly it. And like, let's see some wind gusts. The European shows that system there in Northwestern Territories and Nunavut, and shows like today there 99 to 100 km/h wind gusts in Nunavut there, so be careful. Even northern Manitoba, northwestern Ontario, some very strong winds there in northwestern Quebec. So this keeps going through Hudson Bay, very turbulent conditions in Hudson Bay there, like Tuesday, on early Tuesday, especially through tonight, and shows as it goes into Quebec tomorrow, Tuesday into Wednesday. So it shows close to 100 km/h gusts through Quebec, northern Quebec and western Quebec, and then it continues there, very strong winds, and then it affects Labrador and some other areas, and finally leaves by Friday there. But might have some other system with gusty winds later there, like by this weekend and early next week. So be aware. In Western Canada, it shows some more gusty winds through parts of Alberta, northwestern U.S., even into Yukon and British Columbia later, especially Thursday there, like late Wednesday into Thursday. Yeah, so be aware. This is the European. The GFS is also some very strong winds in Nunavut from this system today, but it has lower than the European, but some strong winds as well. And then let's see, it goes into Ontario there with some very strong winds. And yes, so stay safe. Let's see what else here. Sorry about that. So let's see some energy for the thunderstorm. So it shows more Cape, like I showed you in the US already, but let's see if it shows anything in Canada. Shows in Ontario a little bit more energy for those storms, and tomorrow more in the US there in the Midwest, and maybe southern Ontario, some more Cape as well. So stay safe there. Let me see if I find something here. Wait. So I saw this. Wait, let's see. Here. So I saw this post from Reed Timmer earlier today, and it shows the model there showing those very strong severe storms going from South Dakota into Minnesota there. So those ones could be very severe, maybe have some tornadoes and stuff, like I showed you on the HER, but the HER showing it like really late here. It doesn't show like in the afternoon. It shows the storms going through South Dakota, then only arriving in Minnesota like about 7Z Tuesday, like in the middle of the night towards the morning. But we'll keep monitoring this, and let's see. And there'll be also the storms that form in central Minnesota going to Wisconsin. Those might have a lot of severe potential, even to the UP of Michigan later. So stay safe there in all of those areas. Be mindful of the tornado threat and the wind threat and the hail. So stay safe. And for the next few days of severe weather that I mentioned before, for tomorrow there's still a slight risk in Wisconsin and parts of Michigan, northern Ohio, even Pennsylvania, and Iowa and Illinois, and a marginal from Kansas to New York. The tornado threat is 2% in Michigan and Wisconsin tomorrow, wind 15 and 5%, hail 15 and 5% too, and a larger 5% there. So stay safe tomorrow. Let's see. Some severe weather potential is evident across the Great Lakes region on Tuesday. So stay safe there. For later, for Wednesday, it shows another slight risk in North Dakota and South Dakota, a marginal risk there, and another marginal risk from Illinois to Massachusetts, and a slight risk in parts of the Northeast and Ohio Valley from Michigan to Connecticut. So be aware there. Day 3, there's a 5 and 15% probabilistic in those areas, and stay safe there. Severe storms are expected across parts of the Midwest and Northeast and Mid-Atlantic area over parts of the Northern Plains, so stay safe there. And let's see. And this, what I showed you before there, shows like late this afternoon and this evening, shows like this evening there in South Dakota into Minnesota. But this was like the model 14 hours ago. The models today, like I showed you, showed that the storms coming like later there and more cloud cover, making it harder to initiate some storms. But I guess we'll see how it will go. But regardless of what happens, please be safe there and have some ways to receive warnings and stay safe. So let's see just what the HER showed for some of the areas there. Wait. So this is like a different look here. It shows the storms that are initiating Wyoming, going to South Dakota, and those really robust ones in Minnesota going to Wisconsin there. Some really strong ones there. And then it shows those on like later, because that's right tomorrow there, like tonight into tomorrow morning into Minnesota and Iowa there. So like I showed you before, and it shows some storms in Quebec and Ontario there, some stronger, maybe a severe storm or two there, and yes, and mainly it, and tomorrow into southern Ontario there, all those big storms into Quebec as well, and heavy rain. So stay safe there. And the firefighter I didn't show you, is no areas for today, but for tomorrow and elevated in parts of Washington and Oregon and Idaho. So be aware. And now this is actually it. Stay safe.